I mean, I'm very lucky and very humbled to have a fantastic team that support me, that support our work. But what's really nice that unifies all of them is they're all actually teachers in their own right. They all have an offering of their own space because I come from a place of if someone's personally passionate about something that they can own or something in their space that they can offer, it allows them to bring that sense of passion and understanding into the work that we do because it allows their individual mission to be expanded within our greater conversation. Hi, I'm Michael James Wong, founder of Just Breathe, and I focus on helping people find a personal and relevant connection to mindfulness and how it relates to them in their lives and in the real world.
Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. So nice to be here and catch up with you.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk about how you got into yoga, meditation, mindfulness. You're a real leader in this space, but every expert starts out as a beginner. And so I'd love to take our audience back to kind of the early days of, what got you intrigued in this space? What got you interested in the first place?
Sure. I mean, it's a really nice walk down memory lane when we get back to the beginning. I mean, for me, it's a really interesting one. I grew up in Los Angeles, California. And so, dare I say, the world of wellness was, relatively ahead of the curve. But growing up in my teenage years and early 20s, I literally was the opposite end of the spectrum. My life was very much fast-paced of LA, good school, good job, get out into the world and be successful. And so while it was always around me, it was definitely not something that was, a part of who I was. I came from a sports and athletic family. I came from a business-minded family, and everything was about go to school, achieve this, and do that. And so for me, the early introduction to it was very much a challenge from a friend. It was actually I had a friend in school and university who was like, hey, come with me to a yoga class, come with me to this meditation event. And it was one of these things that I went very reluctantly. And so I don't have this kind of beautiful story of I found my way in and I had a light bulb that went off and it just became of it. It actually started with a lot of resistance, and it was something that I did actually to fulfill a challenge to friends or to prove that I could be successful, ironically at yoga and meditation and being in these spaces.
I'd love to kind of really tap into that point in your life where you left your job. I'd love to know what you were doing, what that job was full time. And I guess in that moment, what your vision was for a successful career in kind of yoga, meditation.
Yeah, I mean, I actually my road to where I'm at now is probably more traditional or more familiar than probably what a lot of people think. Originally, when I was in the U.S., my background was in marketing and strategy and entertainment. I worked a lot where we did marketing strategies for the Grammys, for Nike, for big brands, and I kind of came from that space of being, I guess now, which would be entertainment marketing or brand development. And so I was naturally in that space of working on exciting things, and I was lucky to be able to do that at a young age. And so even when I moved to Australia, even as I kind of moved more into the space, I always still had one foot connected to that world. So I always had, probably for the first probably 5 or 8 years of teaching, I was still working full time. And so I had that bridging of, I didn't have a moment where I packed it all in and said, I'm going to do this full time until only about 5 or 6 years ago. Because for me, it was actually, it was kind of my retreat to be in the wellness space, in the community. I had a really strong perspective to not integrate or cross over the two in those earlier years, because for me, that was my place of reprieve. That was where I found my peace, whatever you want to call it. That was where I kind of had a moment to kind of go, okay, here's how I can step away.
What is one thing that you wish that you'd known when you first started out on your business journey?
I wish I knew how much time I would be working because of how passionate I was about what I was working on.
Love that. What's one thing that you wish that you'd done sooner in your business?
Took more risks. I think a lot of times when you're starting a business, you can play it safe and just be kind of, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this, and then when I get to this, I'll do that thing. Take more risks and fail more. I've had a lot of things that never worked out, a lot of projects you start, built huge projects, and then just bin them and moved on. Take more risks.
Yeah, and enjoy it, right? Like be playful with taking those risks.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do?
For me, it's about being of service. It's about supporting people. And ultimately, regardless if it's teaching or personal life or business, it's ultimately how can we just support each other. And if it can be sustainable, great. If it's not, it wouldn't stop me from being helpful and supportive as much as possible.
What would you say is the best part of your job day to day?
Well, the best part of my job is the dress code. I can literally wear whatever I want. Because of my work, yoga pants, stretchy pants, sweatpants are all business attire.
Part of the uniform. That is not what I was expecting you to say, but I love it. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
My mother used to say, don't pack a bag you can't carry. And so for me, that's always been about just be wise in what you take on. And if it gets too heavy, unpack some of the bag.
So I'd love to know then, Michael, what were some of the first projects that did enable you to, financially support yourself and monetize that expertise? What were those early initiatives that kind of got you going as a business?
Yeah, I mean, what I always tend to say, and I come from a space within this community where I'm a teacher first. And obviously there's a lot of pathways into the wellness space and the business of wellness. For me, I've always been teacher-led. So in the first inclination for me, it was I can teach and be sustainable. I can host workshops. I can do trainings. I spent probably a good 5 years on the road traveling, literally like a band on tour, where sometimes you're doing it because you get paid. Sometimes you're doing it because it's a great way to make connections. Sometimes it's, I've just never been to Berlin. I want to go to Berlin and someone's willing to fly me out there and let me teach something. And so there's a lot of things that people don't realize actually go into whatever you might call as overnight success or sustainability in long term. But for me, it was very much just following those early invitations to teach. And for me, from the place of teaching, especially with the work that I do within yoga and meditation and mindfulness, if our teaching isn't proficient, if we're not coming from a place of authenticity, if we don't have a knowledge and an understanding of the material, then it doesn't really matter all the excess that comes around it. No one's ever going to, you're not going to have 100 people at a teacher training if you don't have anything to share. There's a lot of marketing and bells and whistles that can get people into your rooms, but unless you have something to offer when they're in the space, that's the equitable value that we owe to people when we're teaching or leading or servicing a product, is that there's an equitable exchange of time and money.
I'd love to know, as you got to know your audience and your craft, what were some of the problems that you really felt called to solve in your own business journey? What were the challenges that you saw kind of coming up for people over and over again? And because I know you really kind of use the language of real people's struggles rather than maybe more of the jargon of meditation and mindfulness that we have seen historically. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the problems that I've always tried to solve are my own fundamental problems with all of these practices, is the inaccessibility or the distance that we can relate it in our own lives in the real world. I mean, I can say this very honestly, I come from a background of fun, going out, living a whatever lifestyle, fast lifestyle in LA. And so for me, these types of practices weren't the most interesting or exciting things. Granted, as you get older, we realize a lot more and we know how much value and benefit they are for our well-being, for our mental health. But a lot of people get stuck at the front door without even coming inside the house. And that's purely because the sign on the door is written the wrong way, or the shape of the door is not something they feel like they can fit in, or they look through the window and go, those people aren't like me. And so for us with Just Breathe, our whole audience is very much creating the space for people to have a real world connection. And so dare, you could say, is, yes, it's quite a wide audience, but it's very much a narrow mindset of people who are very much appreciative and realize with a conscious mindset that dealing with their stress is beneficial, understanding the value in their mental health and their physical health. All of these things are things that they know. People know now more than ever how important it is to take care of themselves, how important it is to have personal practices that suit their well-being. But like lots of things in our life, there's always a disconnect. There's always a gap to get over. And so for us, it's very much how do we close that gap by providing a language that works for them, meeting people where they are. With a lot of our events back before kind of lockdown times, we'd have big scale events that were focused on meditation and mindfulness as the core topic. But the gateway is music, spoken word, dance, comedy, fun conversations. You can come in your suits and tie, you can bring your parents, you can come with your babies, your dogs. It's just very much how do we bring these practices to you in the real life and help show those connections where you can see yourself in the room as opposed to standing on the outside saying, I know that's good for me, but I'm not sure if that's my party.
I'd love to hear about the team that you have around you. So how critical has it been for you to have the right people who can wear the marketing, the PR, the logistics hats, and I guess enable you to really stay in your true kind of niche, your true focus?
Yeah, I'm very lucky and very humbled to have a fantastic team that support me, that support our work. My situation may be unique in that sense that the team that I've built has to have a dual skill set. They have to have a certain, let's say, area that they cover logistically or business productivity wise, but they also need to have an understanding of the space, of the conversations that we keep in wellness and mindfulness. And so over the years, it has been a really unique kind of refinement to find the right space. I have my creative and business partner who we worked together for about 7 or 8 years now on everything from Just Breathe from start to finish, to all the books that we've worked on, to even everything from website copy and design, who has been on this journey together. And we used to run a creative agency together way back however long ago. And at the same time, we have someone who's in charge of all of our online and social, all of our partnerships and relationships, and we have a producer who kind of is the catch-all for everything. But what's really nice that unifies all of them is they're all actually teachers in their own right. They all have an offering of their own space, because I come from a place of if someone's personally passionate about something that they can own or something in their space that they can offer, it allows them to bring that sense of passion and understanding into the work that we do, because it allows their individual mission to be expanded within our greater conversation, because all of our work is about community, building strong and meaningful communities. And so luckily for me, by having such a good team, it does free me up to, let's say, stay with the vision or be outlandish without ideas, because I know that we have strong skill sets that refine and keep the train moving forward while we kind of look for new land to kind of explore.
I'd love to understand how you set goals for yourself so that, you can continue to grow, you can continue to impact more people, and also so that you can expand, I guess, your belief in what is possible for you to achieve as a teacher, as an educator, as an expert in this space.
For me, the way that I set my goals are very relatively short term comparative to maybe how people might scope or plan a business. Because my work is split between teaching and running a business, I'll always look at what are the elements of where I need to be teaching and want to focus my time teaching in the next 12 months. Where do we want to grow to as a business in the next 12 months? Where's the overlap? And so let's say if I'm, for 2021, I already know that I'm going to be running 400 hours of teaching, or probably 600 hours of teacher training, as well as we want to grow to the next stage of our app development. I have a new book I want to write, and we have 10 more podcasts that we're going to release. It's finding that balance of making a goal, ensuring that we have the team that can be self-sustainable to reach those goals, and also to have enough personal time and nourishment so that I'm excited to push in those directions. And I think the balance for me has always been about how can we create our own sustainability as a team where, dare I say, I can write myself out of the day-to-day because the team is so excited to move in those directions, and all I can be is the spark that maybe gets us going, or the nudge halfway through to say, hey, are we there yet? Because I think as a business owner or a leader in the community, realizing realizing you can't do everything, and realizing when you need to let the team take hold of the ship is one of the greatest learnings for me, and actually how we achieve more.
Thank you so much, Michael. I've loved speaking to you. It's been really refreshing to hear your point of view, and of course, incredibly inspiring for those going on this journey and who look to you as a leader. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to share.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It's so nice to see you, and so nice, and congratulations for this amazing podcast. And if this can be of help to anyone, by all means, I hope it can be.
Thank you.